Obviously the fuel line was not the problem, the primer ball was not the problem. There we have a leak on this carburetor. Okay, so if you look around where this, there's definitely a leak. You can see like the buildup there around that tubing prong or barb. So that is definitely a leak, and I'm not sure if one of the other gaskets may also be leaking. So it's not allowing it to pull the fuel up into the carburetor. So I found the carburetor. It's they were on Amazon. I think it was $12. So I just decided to go ahead and get the new carburetor, and it came with all the gaskets that I needed. However, it didn't say for this exact model, but they're almost identical. So what we're going to do is pull it off and check it to make sure it works, and then hopefully it'll all fit up, and we'll have a good running weed eater again. So the air filter cover, what we're going to do, we got a little flathead screwdriver. I'm not able to get it off with my finger, off the bottom side. So we pull that off, and we pull this air filter off. And there's two pieces on this one, and there's two bolts there. We'll take that off. Okay. Two bolts in here, 3/8. And that will release the filter housing and the carburetor. Okay, there's the filter housing, and there's the carburetor. Let's go ahead and try to get that carburetor off. We'll take these fuel lines off. It's real easy if you just take your screwdriver and kind of push on the ends. Makes it come off really easy. And remember which one's your primer and which one's your fuel line, because the primer return, and which one's the fuel, because you want to get those on correctly. One will have a filter on it. Alright, so now we're ready to remove the carburetor, and you have a linkage for your throttle cable. So you have to take and kind of pull that to the side, and that will come loose. So there's the old carburetor and the new one. It's slightly different. The handle's a little different, but overall it looks identical. The way the fuel lines come out, it's just a little bit different, but it's probably just an improved design. So let's get it on and let's see if it'll work. Okay, so make sure you know which way this goes. If you look at this gasket, it's got a hole right here in this is the top, this way. And on the carburetor, there's also a hole. So you need to align that to make sure it's going to work properly. And this faces the engine. I'm going to go ahead and slide the gasket on, because I was having a little difficulty with that. These bolts must have like a T-head on them. I'm not sure, I've never taken it off, but they're not screwed into the head. And one thing I noticed now is that I did not have a gasket on the air filter housing side. So I don't know if that was causing a problem or not. Okay, we've got the primary fuel line connected to the bottom port, and the primer line connected to the top. Put our gasket on. Make sure you align the hole with that hole on the carburetor. And we're ready for the filter housing. This is where it's going to be tricky. It looks like we're going to have difficulty here. Okay, so now this is where This model is the UT 20707, and that's 2707. And the model that this carburetor is for, I believe, is a newer model, or a little bit larger. I think it was a 26cc. And obviously the filter housing is designed slightly different. So what we have to look at is, can we take this handle off and put the other original handle on? The answer, I believe, is yes, but we'll see here in a minute. I'm going to try to pry it off. And there you go, it comes right off. Okay, so I'll show you the difference between these two carburetors. And if you look at this one, the plastic little handle comes all the way through the carburetor. So I was thinking I could just pull this off, and I did this real quickly without even looking at it. I thought I could pull this off and just pop this new handle on there because it's designed a little different. But that's obviously not the case. So what I'm going to end up doing is, probably on this flat piece, I'll just take it and drill a hole, and then I'll slide that handle on as far as I can, and then drill a hole in the plastic to allow the operation of the choke. So I'm going to go ahead and try that out now. Okay, so we're over at the drill press. Let's. What I've got is a little piece of wood here that I've set this brass rod on, the shaft for the choke baffle, and so I've got it to where I can put the carburetor down. It's such an odd shape in the way it's designed, you're not going to be able to clamp it. So you want to have some stop so it doesn't attack you or spin, you know, if it was to bind up. So I'll be able to hold it up against the wood and also be able to press down. So I did make the hole in the little handle where I needed it. Let's get that back into focus. There we go. And so I marked that right there on the shaft, and now we're ready to drill through the shaft, and then we'll put the handle on and drill all the way through the plastic. Make sure you get it aligned here. Okay, now we're through. Didn't quite make it through. There we go. Now we made it. Put our handle on and finish the hole. Alright, so we put the handle on, and all we want to do is drill the back side of the plastic. I think we'll be able to clear the little lever part. So here we go. And you got to be careful, you want it to be aligned, you don't want it to bind up on you and start spinning. Could be very painful. There we go, we got it all the way through. Right there. So now we should be able to, now we're going to be able to put a little pin through there and keep it from moving. Okay, so I didn't have the proper size cotter pin, so I just took a little key ring, and it went through there really easy without bending or binding. And until I get the right size cotter pin, I'm going to use that. That'll hold it in place. Okay, so let's put this back on and see how our modifications worked out. We also need to put the throttle cable in place. It's much easier to do that with it not bolted onto the head. Okay, so we've got the throttle cable. We just it's like an S. It's easy to install. And make sure you remember where the fuel filter is. We'll plug that the fuel line with the fuel filter on it, I should say. Plug that in to the lower one, and then the other one is just goes onto the top side. Alright, so now we should be able to function our choke fully. And let's get the other gasket, put it in place. Keep in mind the hole has to be in the proper location right there. And then we're ready for the air filter housing. Make sure you work that on and try to get the nuts on. Don't tighten it up too tight, you don't want to break the plastic, but you do want to have it tight enough so it won't vibrate loose and the gaskets are going to seal. Place the air filter back in place. And for the second try, let's see if we get it fixed this round. We have the air filter housing back installed and we're ready for the test. Not sure if you can see and there we have it. We have fuel. So I think we've got a fix on this one. This ended up being 2 tries. It took 2 tries to get this fixed. We replaced the fuel line, which needed to be replaced anyway, with the new fuel filter, and we ordered the carburetor. This carburetor was for Homelite, Ryobi. I think there might have been another brand, but it was not for this model, which is a UT20707. So with that being said, we had to make a modification. The only difference is on the choke here, and so that was the main difference. I tried the plastic handle, but it just wasn't working for me. It was still slipping, especially with the way I had it set up with this little ring, and it's not fully seated because of that flat spot on the shaft. See, there we go. So now what was happening, that's really where it needs to be. So when I take the choke full off, it's not in the way and I can move the throttle. You can see I'm squeezing the throttle there. So make sure that choke is pushed down. See, you can only put like half throttle. That's really what you want. And mine, this one was up at the top, so it was not allowing me to use the throttle fully like this. So now it's fully functional and we're ready to go weed eat. Alright, thanks for watching and we'll see you on the next video.